Ever since its inception, the social media platform TikTok has stood out. Not just because it takes all its users' information and sells it to the Chinese Communist Party, but also it provides a platform for people with no talent whatsoever. That's not to say that there isn't some good content on TikTok, but the focus always seems to be on the screaming, "Look at me, I'm a victim" types, or the viral challenges which allow the mentally disadvantaged new and exciting ways to remove themselves from the gene pool. Which is a good thing, because I think we can all agree the gene pool needs some fucking chlorine. But before we get on to one of the latest and most disturbing viral TikTok challenges, I want to reflect on how quickly society has changed, particularly with the influence of social media. When I was at high school in the 1990s, no one was gay. In my year, consisting of 120 kids, no one openly played for the other team. Now, of course, there were uphill gardeners and carpet munchers among our ranks, but being open and gay wasn't yet a thing, particularly as AIDS had just wiped out most of the gay community. But by the late 1990s, being homosexual was getting normalised, as well it should. This was helped by TV programmes like The Word and Eurotrash, and by the early 2000s we were talking about people being transgender, and by that I mean genuine transgender people, people with gender dysphoria, not bricklayers called Jeff who occasionally like to wear a dress. And it was around this time that the internet really took off. It became mainstream, and soon it became clear that anyone who wanted to have their voice heard just had to scream and shout louder than everyone else. And in the early 2010s, victimhood culture really fucking took off. And now we find ourselves living in this absolute shitstorm. Because now the only way to get your voice heard is to show that your life or the life of a loved one is much harder than everyone else's. Let's start with the example of the explosion of transgender children. 20 years ago, if a child was acting outside of societal norms, the parents might have thought, it's a phase, or maybe he or she, because that was all there was back then, he or she is confused about their sexuality. Whereas now we have these ultra woke progressive parents who will straight away put their kids on puberty blockers and put them on hormone replacement therapy just so they can tweet all their favourite blue check marks to show how fucking modern they are. But for me, the argument is, until a child goes through puberty, do they really understand gender and sexuality? Now, I've always known I'm attracted to females, but, for example, if when I was 8 years old, I'd been given the choice that as an adult, I could have a never-ending stream of exotic, attractive young ladies to have mind-blowing sex with me, or I could own the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard, and I guarantee there'd be a 1969 Dodge Charger sat on my fucking driveway. But what has any of this got to do with challenges on TikTok? Well, it's as if almost every avenue of victimhood has been exhausted, except for one which is very controversial: mental illness. Not mental health, that's something we all need to talk more about. No, mental illness. So over the last few months, the DID challenge has been doing the rounds on TikTok, and DID is short for dissociative identity disorder, what used to be known as multiple personality disorder. And DID is one of the most contested and rarest conditions in the world of psychiatry. In fact, many psychiatrists, psychologists and therapists say it doesn't even fucking exist. But thousands of young people are self-diagnosing themselves with the condition. That's where we've got to as a society. The problem, however, is that the deluded attention-seeking wannabes on TikTok aren't following the psychiatric model of this supposed disorder. No, they're doing it Hollywood style. One of the first examples of multiple personality disorder being played out on the big screen was in Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 film Psycho, in which Norman Bates has internalised the personality of his dead mother and puts on her clothes to murder young women. Now, if that film was made today, Bates would be portrayed as a closeted transgender type, exploring his sexuality and murdering women to cover up his shame. Essentially, he'd be portrayed as the fucking victim. Scroll forward to the film Split by M. Night Shyamalan, in which James McAvoy gives an incredible but completely unrealistic performance of someone with DID. And this is what the TikTokers are copying. They will introduce themselves as the system and then go through all of their personalities one at a time. But why are they doing it? Well, I'm guessing it's a combination of low self-esteem and a need for attention. Almost as if they're going, look at me, I'm a fucking lunatic. Because if your main personality is dull as fuck, why not introduce another 15 in the hope that one of them might be mildly amusing? Of course, the other advantage of pretending to have DID is it absolves you of any responsibility. It wasn't me, it was Patricia. Meaning you can do and say whatever the fuck you want. You can be an absolute shit and still play the victim. Essentially, if you've ever woken up with a hangover and thought, oh shit, what did I do last night? Now, just blame it on another personality. This is where we are. We've reached a point where pretending to be clinically insane is somewhat fashionable. But fear not, I have the solution. For anyone pretending they've got DID, let's encourage them to do some more traditional mental health work. Ask them to do the lobotomy challenge. As ever, thanks for watching.